This video will explain what happens when the town assessor does not do a reassessment or revaluation, but instead merely uses the same assessed values from the previous year. The result is that the tax burden is shifted to homes that appreciate it the least and away from homes that appreciate it the most. This graphic from the previous video shows that merely changing the assessment ratio from 100% to something lower, or even changing a lower assessment ratio to 100%, does not result in higher tax bills when 1. All property appreciates equally, and 2. The town budget doesn't change. Now let's consider what happens when property does not appreciate equally and the assessor doesn't do a reassessment. This graphic shows the assessment information for the 2022 tax year. Now let's see what happens in 2023 when the assessor does not do a reassessment or revaluation. Both of the homes were sold on July 1 of 2022, which is the taxable valuation date for the 2023 tax roll. So we know without a doubt that their full market values for the 2023 tax roll should be their actual sales price. The smaller home sold for $210,000, while the larger home sold for $360,000. Instead of reassessing or revaluing the properties, the assessor merely uses the 2022 assessed values for the 2023 assessment roll. This is what typically happens when a town does not do a reassessment or revaluation. Due to the fact that the assessor is using last year's assessed values, the actual assessment ratios for 2023 are very different. The smaller home has an assessment ratio of 95%, but the larger home has an assessment ratio of only 83%. The New York State Tax Department will determine that the equalization rate for the town for 2023 is 87% because the total assessed value for all property in the town is only $500,000, while the total full market value for all property in the town is $570,000. Section 305 of the New York State Real Property Tax Law requires that all property be assessed at the same percentage of full market value. So the assessor will have to fudge the full market values on the assessment roll for 2023 to make it appear that both homes are being assessed at 87%. She will do this by dividing the existing assessed value by 87%, then magically declaring that the smaller home had a full market value of $295,885 on July 1, 2022, and that the larger home had a full market value of only $344,838 on July 1 of 2022. If the smaller home was to be assessed at the same ratio as the larger home, then the assessed value for the smaller home would be $174,300 rather than the $200,000 assessed value being used by the assessor. In a town like Cheektowaga, that would save the owners of the smaller home about $600 in town, county, and school taxes. Instead, the owners of the smaller home are overpaying their share of the tax burden by about $600, so that the owners of the larger home can save about $600 on their tax bill. This is exactly what happened in 2020 when the town board voted to suspend the 100% assessment ratio for that year, as will be depicted on the next graphic. This last graphic shows the result of the town board's decision to revoke the 100% assessment ratio for the 2020 tax roll. It depicts the actual results for two actual homes. These are not theoretical or hypothetical situations. The calculations are based on the actual tax bills and the town's own appraisals for those two homes. As you can see, one home suffered a penalty of $600 so that the other home could save $600,